Siddhant, I think you can send a request to Instagram, virtual lawyer.
नहीं मैं तब रिक्वेस्ट भेजूंगा ना जब पापा का वो मतलब जब आप बोलोगे ज्वाइन करने के लिए।
नहीं तुम अभी भेज दो रिक्वेस्ट, वो 5-10 मिनट।
Oh, we got a lot of joinings already.
Must mention to them that we are live on Zoom, Facebook, and Instagram simultaneously.
Hi everyone who's joining in. Great. Everyone, we're just going to be with Rajiv Bansal sir in a few minutes. He's going to send a request. We are going. This is the first time we're going live on Zoom, Facebook Live, and Instagram Live simultaneously.
Send a request. We are going. This is the first time we're going live on Zoom, Facebook Live, and
so let's, without further ado, we're just waiting for the request. In the meantime, I'd just like to introduce sir. Rajiv Bansal sir is a senior standing counsel. He's a senior advocate with the Delhi High Court. He's been practicing for 25 number of years. He has been in 2005 he was appointed as a standing counsel for the Delhi High Court. In 2006 he was appointed as the DDA counsel, and in 2014 he was made senior standing DDA counsel, and he was also made senior municipal officer in counsel in the NDMC, sir. Other than that, sir has also represented a number of big companies and a number of big cases around the world. Some of them include Gas Authority of India, National Institute, Public Finance, and Institute over there. We're just waiting for sir to come on. It'll be very interesting. We'll have a very interactive discussion about law, life, and philosophy, and very core subjects that we'll be talking to about very interesting things that he wants to share with all of us as young juniors at this age. And we're waiting for sir.
Hello sir.
Hi. Hi, Govind, how are you?
Fine, sir. Fine. How are you doing, sir?
Govind, you're giving me a complex, sir.
So why, sir?
Sitting at home in a shirt, and you're all suited, man. So I asked you, should I go and fetch my coat?
No, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We need to dress up, sir. You already established in the career. You're very high up over there. So nothing over there, sir. Sir, we've, as I've already stated, I've mentioned a little of your legal journey. So, sir, you're a third generation lawyer, sir, as we all know, and you're also a senior.
Govind, just do me a favor. Switch off the microphone speaker of one of your devices.
I've done that, sir. I've switched off the speaker of my devices, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. So it's very interesting.
It's still happening because there are two devices.
Sir, I think
together.
Yeah, I think that's somewhere else, because otherwise mine are closed. My laptop is closed.
That's right. Somebody is using two devices together, and the sound is echoing.
Could someone who has done that?
Okay.
So we can switch off the volume of the Instagram device.
Okay.
So that it doesn't echo.
Okay.
And you can hear Govind on Zoom, so that won't be a problem.
Okay, fine.
Yes, sir. I think that's better, sir. It's better already.
Stanley,
yeah.
You'll have to give me a go ahead for going live on Facebook, okay? Ma'am, go ahead. Okay, I'm going live then.
Nice, sir.
Yeah, Govind, can you hear me?
Of course, sir. Much better now, sir. Much better.
Wait, I can't hear you. I'm not able to hear you, Govind.
Can you hear me, sir?
Give me a minute, Govind.
Govind, unmute yourself from Zoom.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yep.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Hear Janvi. Govind, your speaker is off. Mic is off.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, sir. So as we all know, you're a first generation lawyer who's also a senior advocate. Sir.
You've been
Yes,
muted.
sir.
I don't know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you now.
Yeah. You're also a first generation lawyer who's a senior advocate, sir. Right, sir?
That's right.
So, sir, we all who aspire who are first generation lawyers would like to come in the process and understand your journey in order to help us supplement what skill sets, what requirements, what qualities we need to, survive in the profession at the same time, make a name and be successful in it.
Govind, I am a firm believer in destiny. And I think I became a lawyer because I was destined to be a lawyer. And one of my seniors, who retired as a judge of the High Court, he said you couldn't have been anything else but a lawyer. So before I started my education in Faculty of Law, Delhi University, I tried my hand at doing MBA. I flunked all the exams. All the exams I flunked. And I had no option then. Second option, I'd always thought of law because I never wanted to end only as a graduate. And I wanted to do something different. In my larger family, all were chartered accountants, and I never wanted to be a chartered accountant. I never wanted to be a chartered accountant. So I said nothing to do with chartered accountancy. So here I was, trying my hand at being a lawyer. But initially when I was, in fact, even in Faculty of Law, I had not given up my dream to set up a business of my own. And I was still trying till the second year. And lawyer seriously. So I joined the chambers of Mr. Raju Ramachandran, who was then an AOR and who had a roaring practice. He was the standing counsel for the UPSRTC, UP State Road Transport Corporation, and the matters came by the dozen every day. By the dozen every day. So there I started, and what you see me today, I wasn't like this. I was a party hopper, a social butterfly, absolutely non-serious. So Raju Saab at that time was doing this case, which is a very famous case, which is V. Ramaswamy's, Justice V. Ramaswamy's
Yes, sir.
Impeachment proceedings. So there was a commission of inquiry set up, and there was the counsel for the inquiry commission. He would leave office by 4:30, and I would pick up my bag and leave the office. And I would tell the clerk, don't tell boss that I'm leaving. So whenever boss calls you, there were landlines only, calls you, tell him that I've just left. One day, boss called me in his chamber and gave me a good dressing down. He said, what do you think? You think I don't know what you're doing? You're not serious. You don't draft. You don't research the law. You're busy here and there roaming around with your friends. I had a big friend circle, of all the young entrants at the bar. So it was quite, a good dressing down. And I had two options, though, in that time.
Yes,
either
sir.
I left him or I tried to improve. I bought my first set of SCC for a princely sum of 16,000 rupees so that I could please him by researching at home.
What year was this, sir? What year was this? Which year?
This was 1992.
Oh, okay. A lot of
This
money
was
then.
1992 when I joined his chambers.
Uh,
Then, but I think I had annoyed him enough. And he said, well, you have to find some new chambers because I asked somebody to join my chambers who will be joining in February, March. By that time, the first batch of NLU was passing out. So since he had been going as a guest lecturer at NLU Bangalore, it's called NLU Bangalore, NLIS Bangalore, he wanted to have a junior from the first batch. So there I was, didn't know what to do. 8 months, I joined him in May, June, probably, before the vacation, Supreme Court vacations commenced. And I had been given a marching order by December. So I worked with him for 7 months. But over the years, we've developed a very strong bond. He and I have developed a very strong bond. Whenever I need some advice, I look up to him and I follow any advice that he gives me to the T. And it's his graciousness that he also calls upon me for advice at times and takes my advice seriously. But I was out of his chambers in 8 months. Didn't know what to do. I was virtually on the road. Didn't know what to do. So I asked him what to do. He said, so you are a Delhiite and there is a problem with Delhiites. Every lawyer who's from Delhi wants to come and file his case and argue his matter in the Supreme Court. So don't expect that you will get, any matter for Delhi. You are a local, so you must go to the Delhi High Court and try your luck there. As you said, I'm a first generation lawyer. I didn't know anybody in the profession whom I could join. Yes, I that time knew Justice Vijender Jain, who was a lawyer that time, a senior advocate. So I went to him. His chamber was full. He already had a lot of juniors, so he said he won't be able to accommodate me at that point of time. So there I was. Then I asked him what to do, and he said he spoke to my senior then in the High Court, Mr. Joseph. He was a standing counsel for the central government. There used to be only 4 central government standing counsels. Now I think you have 40 odd. That time you had only 4. So Mr. Joseph became my mentor. He gave me a free hand to argue the matters. He gave me a free hand to draft. Wherever. I mean, he wouldn't even look at my drafts, counter affidavits, written statements. He wouldn't. He trusted me, and I developed the knack for drafting in his chambers, and I learned the art of, to some extent, the art of arguing in the chambers of Mr. E.X. Joseph. And to tell you, Mr. E.X. Joseph quit the practice 10-15 years ago, and he lives in a small village in Kerala, and he teaches the deprived children. The children coming from the deprived sections of society there. So he's such a great man. He is. And so it was difficult, firstly, to find a good senior, but I was fortunate that the 2 seniors that I met were very good, and they really helped me to, grow. That's it. And then, since you asked, it's a very big question that you've asked me. Very question which would cover a lot of years of my life as a junior. as a junior. So my stint with Mr. Joseph also ended in 8 months
Okay, sir.
because Mr. Joseph became a senior.
Hmm.
And after he became a senior, there was nothing to draft and nothing to argue because he then had to demit the office of the Standing Council,
Yes,
Central
sir.
Government Standing Council. And I was on the road again. No work, nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing. But the help
Actually, sir,
came
this is
from
where the
what-
second question comes in, sir. You, after that, how was your experience as the DDA lawyer, sir?
So just before that, I'll tell you. Before I
Uh-huh.
became a DDA lawyer,
Yes, sir.
the DDA lawyer became in 1998. So it's been a journey of 22 years now.
Oh, yes,
Probably
sir.
I'm the longest standing counsel for DDA today. But
Yes,
what I
sir.
was saying was that the help came from different quarters. People I didn't know helped me. They helped me with matters, small matters. And, I was opposing Justice Swatantra Kumar, who was a lawyer, senior advocate in medical cases those days. Mr. Joseph used to appear for the DGHS, and I was opposing Mr. Justice Swatantra Kumar, who was a lawyer that time. And the greatness of these people, Justice Swatantra Kumar, Justice Geeta Mittal, fabulous people. They called me to their chambers one day, and that was the day when I had decided to quit the profession. Nothing was working, no work, no money. I was roaming around idly. I used to go to the High Court every day. Though no work. So they called me to the chambers and they said, well, these are the 3 matters. There were 2 of them for the High Court, 4. 2 of them for the High Court, 2 of them for the district courts. And there I was. That gave me the impetus to be in the profession, and then I decided to stay. So these people, look at them. I was somebody who was opposing them day in and day out. But still, they saw that he was a hard-working young lawyer, and they still trusted me with their work. So I'm grateful to them, for that help in the initial years. Yes. So you asked me the second question about DDA. My journey with the DDA began in 1998. And it began because we had a new CLA that time, Mrs. Chaudhary, who came from Haryana Judicial Services. And one of the judges she had called on to meet, said, look, you have all the, people, big flying people. You must give chance to youngsters, young lawyers. There are very many good lawyers at the bar. You must try and look for them. So that's how my entry in the DDA began. I was a teeny-mini panel lawyer. In 1998, 2004, I became the standing counsel. 2014, I went to resign from DDA. 2000 February it was. I went to resign. I went and met the then VC, Mr. Balvinder Kumar, and I offered my resignation. I said, sir, it's time to hand over the baton to the next generation. He said, no, I am not going to leave you. You tell me what you want. He said, what do you want? I said, sir, I want to try my hand at being a senior. So I think this is the training ground I want to begin with. He said, you will permit me to being briefed by other lawyers of DDA and appoint me as a senior standing counsel for the DDA.
Yes, sir.
And he took exactly a minute to say, yes, done. And he asked the CLA that time to, process the file. So I became the first ever senior standing counsel of DDA. With me became Mr. Ajay Verma as well, who's quite senior to me. Became the first, we both became senior standing counsels of DDA, though we were not designated as seniors. So this was a dispensation done for us. DDA has actually been I've tried to leave DDA time and again, tried to quit, but then I could never. In fact, my family has always stopped me from quitting DDA. They've said, what is your identity? Today, if you ask anyone, Rajiv Bansal, that comes the question, DDA. So I don't have the identity. My identity is DDA, right? Became DDA, of course. Over the years, since after I became a senior, things have started changing because my appearance for DDA has become little less. It's only for very important matters. But then I could never leave DDA, and there is no reason that I should leave it. It's been like my mother. It's very difficult for anyone to admit that a client can be a mother, and of all that public sector and statutory authority. But DDA has been no less to me than a mother.
I know, sir. I can totally understand that, sir. And more importantly than that, it's also the fact that becoming first generation lawyer, you learn to argue in the courts by working under two seniors. For new lawyers who are coming into the profession, who are arguing now, would you say would be the top skill exercises? Sir, and in law and when we are in court, we are arguing. So we have to listen to the, listen, understand, be on our feet and everything. We have to have a booming voice, or let's say a baritone of sorts, or just a voice, a proper voice, which would communicate, our point effectively. And since many of times, what activities can they take? So a litigating counsel should have that skill set in court. Is my point.
Okay, that's a very nice question, especially for my young friends. So before I became a lawyer, Govind, from 7th standard on, I studied in St. Xavier's School, Delhi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And my seniors have been very, very noted lawyers, jurists. Justice Vikramajit Sen.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Arun Jaitley.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Avan Lekhi.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gopal Subramaniam. Mr. Sudhanshu Batra.
Yes, sir.
Right? So these people, I'm following on their footsteps.
Yes,
so
sir.
St. Xavier's has a very strong tradition of theatre. Very strong tradition of theatre. Whether you are in junior school, so we had senior theatre from 10th, 11th, 12th for 10th, 11th, 12th, 7th, 8th, 9th. We had the junior theatre, and I was in theatre from day one. In fact, I declined to my first when I was asked to perform a role in one play. And that was also because I was, a little heavily built, and they wanted the role of a ex-Nazi to be played by me. And I had this stage fear. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Sorry. And then they took me to the principal. They said, we have no other actor. We want him to do it. And the principal said, well, you have to do it. And I had to do that role. So theatre from 7th standard till the end of college is something which really has helped me in the profession as well. Theatre teaches you, how to be clear in your diction. So theatre, there are principles which says loud, clear, slow diction. So you have to be loud. You have to project your voice. That's what you have to do in a court. You have to be clear. You have to be clear to the honorable judge.
Your diction.
You have to be clear to the people sitting around. Yeah, you have to be clear to the other side. Slow. Slow, because you will find many lawyers, because they are brilliant lawyers and they argue really well. They're very fast. They're very fast. As a result, they're very top-notch lawyers who are very fast. And the courts have at the time, on various occasions, told them to go slow. So you need to be slow. And then you need to be very conscious about your diction. It's unfortunate, but yeah, English is the language in all courts across the country, excepting in district court, up to district court level in Rajasthan, Haryana, or some other places. But high court level, everywhere it's English. So you have to work on your English. You have to work on your English. For working on English, pick up Wren and Martin. The 10th standard Wren and Martin. Nothing better than that. Nothing better than that.
Wren and Martin.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
You still get it. You still get it. And
yeah,
all my friends, studied with me, and even later, they've referred to Wren and Martin. You get Wren and Martin. You get Wren and Martin Guide. The best book that you can buy for grammar. That's for grammar.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Then you have these books for vocabulary. So you need to have a good vocabulary. You need to have a good
a very wide vocabulary.
English has to be good. Whether you think it's right or wrong, I'm not commenting on that, but you have to have a good command over the language.
Diction. You have to go good diction, good control.
There's one exercise which one of my juniors had suggested to me, and she used to practice it, which I have suggested to lot of my juniors, and it really works.
Which one, sir?
Pick up a newspaper. Lock yourself in a room.
Okay.
Read it for an hour.
Okay.
Loudly to yourself. Be LCSD. Loud, clear, slow. Be conscious of your diction. If you come across a difficult word, encircle it. Don't stop there. Make your vocabulary list later on, and you will see that with passage of time, you become loud, clear, slow diction if you're keeping these 4 principles in mind. And your vocabulary also increases. Your vocabulary also enhances. If you're reading a good newspaper like the Hindu, the Pioneer, Indian Express, those newspapers would really, work on the English. So that is one thing which I would want to suggest to my young lawyer friends, who just joined the bar, to read a newspaper every day loudly for an hour or so, and be loud, clear, slow, and be conscious of diction. And
yes.
The others are, of course, there are moral aspects. The thing is that you have to be honest. I think it's a cliche, but I have to say that you have to be honest to the bar.
Honest to yourself. Yes,
yeah.
To the case, the client.
Moral values which you must imbibe in you to stand. Because you yourself now, Govind, you have 7 years standing at the bar, and you have now yourself seen it, at the bar. Yes. Everybody knows what kind of a person the other lawyer is. Your reputation travels faster than you do. So if you are honest, everybody knows he's an honest lawyer.
Yes, sir.
So everybody will appreciate your honesty, your integrity.
I think what you were trying to say, sir, the best quality is to be honest in law. Truly honest, right, sir?
To be honest, and honesty to the court, honesty to the other side, honesty to the bar at large.
Yes, sir.
And intellectual honesty as well.
True, sir. To do justice and be sincere to everything we do.
And I would want to tell my young friends, because this whole thing today's, has been conceived for young lawyers. I would want to tell them that you'll find that initial years are very difficult in the profession.
Yes, true.
Don't run after money. Don't run after money. I've cried standing in my balcony on various occasions. I can tell you that. I have. Because there was no money coming. I could have survived on the family resources, but I decided against it.
You came from a business family, right? So you came from
Yeah,
there. So
my father was a businessman, and I was the only son. And when he realized 2-3 years when I was in the profession, he realized that I'm not going to be coming back. So he started winding up businesses that time. But I never wanted to rely on the family resources. So I had no money. I was married by the time. I had no money in my pocket. I had a car which was given to me by my father, but I had
yes,
no money for petrol. I had no money for petrol to run the
yes,
car,
yes,
you know. So I had to economize on that. I couldn't, every kilometer had to be counted.
So,
So
sir,
things were very difficult.
so what you didn't make up with money, I'm sure you made up with in some cases. And I would like to know, since you've argued a number of cases, you've argued a number of cases, infrastructure, arbitration, constitutional law, of course, DDA panels, a lot of service matters that have been argued with you, which have very current consequences on the presidency. Could you tell us two major cases of your legal life? Like we as lawyers, when we win a case as in litigation, it is another, it is another field, sir. And what is that case that for the first time you won? First two cases that made you go like, no, I am a lawyer. Everything that I'm dealing with to do litigation is worth because of these two cases. This decision or this any two decisions, sir, in your life. And I'm saying two because one would be like just two less. Two would give us a more subjective view, a more view of how we can set off these things in our legal life, sir.
Govind, the first case that I remember, of course, one got to do these cases, heavy cases, only once you were established as a lawyer to some extent. One case I remember, which I did in 2006, I think, as a standing counsel for DDA, which is a very important case in my entire journey of life so far. It's a reported judgment called Bhagwan Mahavir versus DDA. It is important because this matter was going on. My mother was unwell, and I had to juggle between the hospital and the court, hospital, court. And 1 week before the matter, I would have, I would start shivering, I would start palpitating, my palpitation would start, my BP would go haywire. I've never had a BP problem, but that matter used to give me a BP problem, and everything would go haywire. I used to be so scared of the matter because DDA's policy of disposal of land through auction was put to challenge. There were 52 writ petitions and a lot of LPAs against judgment of the learned single judge which had joined this matter, Bhagwan Mahavir. So there were around 50 LPAs as well, so 100 matters. And every top-notch lawyer of the Delhi High Court pitted against me in that matter. Ultimately, one succeeded. And it was just... why I remember that matter was because one kept reading that provision of law, Rule 4 of the DDA disposal of Nazul land rules, because that was holding the key. And because that uses the word disposal of land, and that was the word which held the key. So the day we could interpret it to the satisfaction of the court, we'd made it, and that came as it was a thumping majority. It was a thumping victory. The court completely accepted our submissions, rejected every submission of the other side. And something very interesting, Govind, in that matter, my own senior was asked to appear against me. He is so nice. Mr. Raju Ramachandran.
Raju Ramachandran, the Supreme Court one. Yes.
He was asked to appear again. He's such a nice person. He called me up to ask me whether it would be in any way embarrassing for me that he appeared in that matter. So I said, nothing. It's your professional duty. It's you're performing your professional duty. I'm performing my professional duty. So there's no conflict. So I argued against my own senior, and so I can't.
That is a very
forget that
powerful
match.
moment for any junior, so it is.
Yes. So I that is why you don't, you call always a junior colleague or an associate. You never
Correct.
address a junior as a junior. That's wrong. That's wrong. You should never
Call
do
him
that.
colleague. Call him colleague. Always, yes.
You should always address somebody as a junior associate or a junior colleague. Because you never know, tomorrow he'll be standing against you and arguing a matter. So that is one. And that judgment lays down very important propositions of law. So it's a good read. If my friends can read it, they should try and read it. It's Bhagwan.
Will you give a citation, sir? Could you give us a citation?
I don't remember. I mean, it's not reported. It's reported in Manu Patra. So you have
Okay.
to look at it. Manu
Sure, sir. We can definitely put it up after the video. We can put it in the caption.
I will share that. Yeah, I will.
Yeah, we will
It's a
definitely.
Manu Patra citation, yeah.
So, the other question is, this V. Vashist has asked us a question saying that times have changed since your time to our times. Since you started off, so where we are starting off, what is the advice you would give to any third generation lawyer starting, let's say, practice tomorrow or, next year or this year? What would be the advice? And more importantly than that, sir, what do you think is easier to establish practice in? Is it civil law or is it criminal law? What would you say?
See, I think that there is actually at the High Court level and above, there is a dearth of good criminal lawyers. We have some very fantastic lawyers in the High Court, now practicing. But still the workload in the High Court is so much that those fantastic lawyers are, since the number is very few, they're not able to really take up that kind of workload. So criminal practice is easier, I think. Number of enactments involved are few. The money is huge.
Yes, sir.
Huge because you tell the client for a bail, if you want a bail, you pay the money now, otherwise I don't appear. And the client has to pay you, before you appear. So you are in a very strong position vis-a-vis the client also. Civil practice is like an ocean. It's like an ocean. The more, and by the end of, I think, what I feel even today is that I have not been able to even get a drop of that ocean. Forget about anything more. I don't even have a drop of ocean. So civil law is vast, but then what I will tell anybody is, and that is what a friend of mine, I won't name, a very dear friend of mine who's also my senior from my school, he said that before people should start getting into, starting criminal practice, they must do 2 years of civil law. That becomes necessary because today the white collar crimes are on the rise. Today it's the white collar crime which is on the rise. So for white collar crime, you need to have a basis in the civil law. So you must practice, you must intern under somebody, you must work under someone, some civil lawyer for a year or two, and then think of going into criminal practice. At the end of the day, it's your own choice. Whether you want to be a civil lawyer or a criminal lawyer, whether you want to be a litigator or you want to be, you want to join a firm, it's your own choice. You want to join you want to join the corporate ladder somewhere. So,
since you're such a rounded, since you're such a, since you have practiced all laws, sir, I would like to ask you, what is the one field of law you would like to tell youngsters to practice in now?
Sorry, I didn't follow the question, Navadhan. Can you please repeat the question?
Sir, so since you practice in all the laws, you have, you have a very sound knowledge completely, and you're very up to date. You are, you've argued from every aspect and every point of view for every law, I believe. My question is, sir, what is the field of law? Because nowadays lawyers want to specialize,
Oh,
in particular law. So, which one would you suggest? They should start
so
off with?
yeah. Govind, now the litigation revolves mainly around, hugely around banking cases, company cases. So you must look at the most important branch of law that is now appearing as emerging as your, the IBC, and I only dread to think. I don't know after this pandemic what is going to be. Yes, the government has declared a moratorium for companies for 6 months, 7 months, whatever, and probably that moratorium is also going to be extended. But then one doesn't know. To what extent it will be continued. But looking at the scenario of business entities today, they are in bad shape. IBC is one big branch of law that is fast emerging. Banking, IBC, arbitration. Arbitration is going to emerge even stronger. And I think, though I'm not a mediator, I must say very clearly, I think one branch of one field which will grow immensely is mediation. Because when people will not have money, either to go to a court of law or to arbitrate, and they would want to, settle somewhere, like, there are a lot of these tenant-landlord disputes which are now emerging. Huge number of tenant-landlord disputes are emerging. Then there are a lot of disputes which are emerging pertaining to, yes, there are disputes pertaining to, the labor force as well, workmen as well. But there are disputes which are emerging with regard to, the corporate honkos, the senior executives who are commanding a salary, maybe an annual package of 1 crore or even more. So even they are going to be litigating. So they will be looking more at mediation, settling the disputes. So there, I think mediation will play a very important role. Mediation will play an important role. Arbitration is going to play an important role. And so you must, my young friends must look at arbitration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Read the contract law. Read the contract law.
All right, sir.
I think it's the most interesting piece of. See, when was contract law enacted in this country?
Yes, sir.
And it still stood.
Still relevant. It's one of the oldest acts still unchanged.
It's still unchanged. And
1872 can still be the same.
1872, yes. You read it time and again. 2 sections and encapsulate the entire world. Section 73, 74.
Sir,
I would advise my young friends to. Sorry.
Arbitration, sir. Arbitration, IBC. You would suggest this, right, sir?
Yes.
A contract act, and be thorough with your contract act.
Contract act is again, mediation. Arbitration. Courts are institutions where you agitate your grievance,
Yes, sir.
grievance. But the foundation of the grievance has to be in some act. It will be in the Contract Act, or the Industrial Dispute Act, or the Transfer of Property Act. So in days to come, I think Transfer of Property Act is going to assume is going to be very important. Everybody thinks force majeure. Everybody is making force majeure as a wand,
Correct.
As a magical wand, without really understanding in depth what exactly force majeure means and what force majeure is. So there will be disputes between corporates.
So, sir, if I may ask, what are the except the Contract Act, what are the 1-2 acts you would tell young lawyers to just be thorough with? Like, they should know it in a second. Like, what are the 2-3 acts you would suggest?
So one is your
Contract
Act, Specific Relief Act, which goes with the Contract Act.
Okay, sir.
Then the IBC code.
IBC, sir.
IBC code.
IPC. All right. Sir.
IBC code. And a few sections of the Transfer of Property Act in the days to come. Because what will happen, my young friends will get a lot of these clients, who want to get a notice issued, whether they are landlords or the tenants. We get these people wanting to get a notice issued to their, landlords or the tenants. So I think they must read sections pertaining to 105, 106, 107, 108, pertaining to, landlord-tenant disputes, the obligations of a landlord, the obligations of a tenant. I think they must read them thoroughly so that, when they have a client coming in for a notice, something very basic as a notice, they're able to help them.
Definitely, sir.
So
Thank
that's
you.
what I think.
That's great advice, sir. That is very, very good
Thank you,
advice.
Govind.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I have one question. We've got one question from Mr. S. Moria. And this is also, I feel, somewhere in connection with what we've talked about, is that we as lawyers have to be honest to our client, honest to ourselves, to our art, to our craft. So, sir, Miss S. Moria says, what is the timetable a young lawyer should follow? What is the hard work he needs to put in? What timetable should he follow to get his work, get proper? And second, sir, have you ever in your life faced a situation where you had to take a matter which was, you felt was you were not being honest to, sir, or somewhere wrong in your
So
philosophy of life?
I'll answer the second question first.
Yes, sir.
I have never consciously taken a matter which my conscience dictated was
Mhm.
there was something amiss. There was
Yes, sir.
something amiss. So I'll tell you very interesting, Govind, something very interesting when you ask
Yes.
that question. A client walked into my office one day and he said, will you appear for me? I said, show me the file. And I went to the file. It had some very fantastic lawyers of the Delhi High Court who have represented him. I said, you have had these lawyers, all of them I have a great respect for. How come you want to change a lawyer? He said, no, I don't want that. Some reason or the other. I said, look, I may be a little incompetent to handle your matter. You need some other lawyer. I did not accept his brief. And then I was told by my lawyer friends who had appeared in that matter that that guy was a crook, and they had never, kind of been swayed by him. So that's why he left all of them. So I've never done, but yes, it happened very recently, Govind, that I have been conned into doing a matter which, if I had been, full facts had been disclosed, I wouldn't have done that matter. I mean, somebody asked me to do a matter, then at the last minute said, no, you appear in a different matter with same facts, same thing. Somebody else is doing that matter and you do this matter. And I accepted that matter, brief, which I wouldn't have otherwise accepted. But I was conned into accepting that brief that way. Last minute change. And now, of course, one makes mistakes at every stage of life. One makes mistakes at every stage of life. I'm also learning every day. I'm learning every day. So I must tell you, I'll pause here for a minute, that you asked me the second question now. What is it that a lawyer must do? Timetable. I think that was the question.
Yes, sir.
So, while I was doing law, I used to go to my friend Satish Parasaran's house, who was my classmate and my buddy. And his father is the legendary Mr. K. Parasaran. So one day, I was there in the conference, and somebody came to brief him. And he said, all right, there was some conference about some provision, something under the Industrial Disputes Act. So he got that Industrial Disputes Act and he started reading that provision. So I asked him, I said, you would be knowing it at the back of your hand. Why do you want to read it again? He said, every time that you read a provision of law, it will give you a different perspective. And never think that you know it all. Never have that know it all attitude. Never have that know it all attitude. Always, the day you think that you've learned it all, the day you stop learning, it's a doomsday for you. So that is what I follow. I still read, try to read every day, though I lag behind, judgments. I'm not able to keep abreast with SCC, current SCCs and Delhi High Court judgments. But thanks to a lot of these WhatsApp groups, one gets to know a lot of law and one tries to read those judgments. So keep abreast with law. Try to be abreast with law. Read the law as much as you want, as much as you can. This is an advice for my young friends. Parties can happen. Parties can wait. Everything can wait. Of course, now you're not having parties. This is the best time to read. Don't waste time playing PUBG. Don't waste time. No, I'm saying this because my son is sitting next to me. So don't waste time playing PUBG. Don't waste time watching TV or whatever. Follow a routine where you can devote 2-3 hours reading every day. It's the best time to read. And even when the lockdown has been eased out, be abreast with law. Be abreast with law. Govind, before we wind up, I just wanted to tell you 2 things for everybody. What I've learned in life, is that there are occasions, there are times when there is a huge storm and the wind is blowing against you.
Yes, sir.
And you are caught in a whirlwind. Don't stand to face it. Don't stand to face it. You'll be blown off. Duck. When I say duck, take it easy. Don't try be belligerent. Don't try to fight out. At times there'll be occasions that you'll be misunderstood. There have been occasions when there have been people who misunderstood me and who wanted to make my life miserable in the profession. I mean, when you're working with a lot of authorities, governmental authorities, public sector undertakings, at times it is that somebody doesn't like your face. Doesn't like your face. And there are people who go by, who go by your face. They don't like your face. Let the storm pass. And then you get up. And then move forward. So don't fight the storm. Duck. Right? Second thing, I'm sorry I'm taking a little more time than probably.
No, please, sir. Please.
Secondly, what I've thought today, everybody is intelligent. Even your client who may be not well read, he's intelligent. Don't mislead anyone. Keep your integrity, up. Keep your integrity up. It pays. Your hard work will pay. I am an example. I'm sorry, I'm saying it with all humility at my command. That hard work and perseverance. Occasions, when 2 occasions when I thought I'd leave the profession, I was torn because there was no money coming in. It was difficult, sustenance was difficult. But then there were people who helped me keep going. One incident, late Mr. Arun Jaitley, he was a great friend of Mr. Raju Ramachandran. So I told Mr. Ramachandran that I'm leaving the profession, and he probably told Mr. Jaitley. And Mr. Jaitley stopped me in the corridor one day. He said, I want to talk to you. I'm going to Port 3. Wait, I'll come back. He came out and he said, look, I know that, you can sustain yourself for some time. Keep going. And I'm telling you, it'll work out for you. It'll work out for you. And that was his advice, which I kind of, which helped me to go on, even when there was the times were difficult. So when you are honest, when you're hardworking, the members of the bar, your own bar, are looking at you. They will give you matters. They will lend a helping hand. Everybody is in need of a good lawyer today, Govind. Everybody
Yes, sir.
wants a good lawyer.
Honestly, yeah. Everybody is looking for a good quality lawyer.
Even the senior colleagues at the bar, they want dynamic young lawyers to help them, to assist them, right? So be hardworking, have your integrity in place. And in this profession, I have always told my colleagues, junior colleagues, sky's the limit. You want money? It'll come. It'll come. As much as you want, it'll come. With perseverance and hard work, it'll come. Wait. Don't be in a hurry. Initial 2, 3, 4 years will be very difficult. They'll be back-breaking. They'll break you. The grind of the first 3, 4 years will break you. Don't get bogged down. Keep moving and you'll definitely emerge. Look at yourself, Govind. You've been pursuing. Look at Janvi, this girl. Look at yourself. Some young people, I have got in touch with during this lockdown. Brilliant lawyers, who are not wasting their time, who are doing something good.
Yes, sir.
For the profession.
So, sir, when we have seniors like you, it's always great and also inspires us to work more. You being a first generation lawyer made it to being a senior advocate. You set up your shop. You've told us how it works. Thank you for that, sir. It was amazing talking to you. And I think more than anything, this session of life, law and philosophy has been very fruitful. We've learned what to do in law is that to get the Contract Act, read the specific rules, read the IPC and a few sections of the Transfer Property Act. The exercises, closing ourselves in the room and reading the newspaper, and just in general, these philosophies about life that keep working hard, keep going. And we had a great response. A lot of people said, thank you, sir, for, you cleared a very basic...
I'm just saying, Govind, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope.
Yes, sir.
Initial 2, 3, 4 years would be difficult. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Thank you. Just keep going and just keep working hard and just keep applying yourself and being honest, right, sir?
Thank you. Yes, Govind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Govind. Thank you, Govind.
Thank you for your time, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Govind. Thank you.
Thank you.